A. Walker Huntington keeps on her toes with the latest in immigration updates and has been to Washington to lobby Congress to reform the current immigration system. She has represented clans the world over. Based in Florida, she is here in Jamaica on our show. So it's time to get an idea of the laws regarding migration for spouses into the USA. Dahlia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we know that you're an immigration lawyer, but what provoked you starting a business here in Jamaica?
Well, it sort of started out of necessity. My husband took a job in Ocho Rios at first in the mid-2000s, about 2006 or so. He's a hotelier, and I had my practice in Florida, and I had to find a way to spend as much time with him as possible. Since I was self-employed, I had the flexibility. And I approached somebody I know with a communications company, and we approached a radio station.
Yes.
And I started my radio show, and that then sprung up with me having clients in Jamaica who wanted to migrate to the United States.
So you're personally familiar with long-distance relationships?
I am, to a certain extent, yes, in the reverse.
So now on to this migration process, the legal side of it. Are you seeing where there's a trend of Jamaican spouses migrating to the US? Is there a trend?
It's a long-term trend. Jamaicans, as you know, have been migrating for decades. We're a unique country in that we have as many people living in Jamaica as we do outside of Jamaica. And one of the ways in which people migrate is through marriage to the United States. It's through marriage to an American citizen or a green card holder. And if you're a green card holder filing for your spouse, that processing time is usually much longer than if you're a United States citizen. So citizens are more favored in filing for their spouses outside of the country.
How has online dating and various social media platforms impacted this process?
Well, it has changed it significantly. I've been practicing for about 18 years, and I have to tell you that chat rooms, online dating services, just people introducing people to people in Jamaica over the phone, and people developing very deep relationships through that, and never having met the person, but they are so in love by hanging out in chat rooms, talking on the phone. You know, back in the day it was very expensive to make phone calls to and from Jamaica. Now it's far more economical. So
free in some cases.
Some cases, so people can spend hours on the phone each week with each other, and they develop strong bonds. What happens is that what the U.S. Embassy traditionally thinks of courting is meeting in person.
Yes.
So that is not really the way especially younger people operate. They operate in the social media context
in a digital realm.
Exactly. Texting, chat rooms, some things I don't know about until the clients tell me, but they do form really strong bonds. And where I see a problem is that when you form these bonds, and the first time you come to Jamaica, you actually marry your spouse.
Yes.
That tends to raise a red flag for the U.S. Embassy, because they want to see the traditional, you're coming on visits, you're spending time with your spouse, as opposed to just having this relationship over the phone or through social media.
So how then, in that case, do you prove, does a spouse prove that level of credibility?
Well, what I tell my clients is don't throw anything away. Don't delete texts, don't throw away emails. You can capture some of the conversations that you have in chat rooms. You definitely want to keep them, print them, because when the spouse in Jamaica goes to the interview at the embassy, the consular officer wants to see that there has been a courtship and there's been an ongoing relationship after the marriage. So we tell people to do that, in addition to getting your phone records from whatever your carrier is locally, so you can show that you are making these calls to and from your spouse in the US, and that there is a document of the relationship, the courting and then the post-marriage relationship.
How difficult is the process of petition for a spouse?
It can be difficult because the main difficulty comes in because the US government thinks that the only reason you got married is for a green card. And so you then have to overcome the presumption that your marriage is fraudulent at the beginning. So they put the burden on you to provide documentary evidence, like some we just talked about, the phone conversations, the chat rooms, certainly photographs, copies of the passport to show the trips. When you are in Jamaica with your spouse, have you gone to stay at a hotel? Have you bought anything together? Do you have a bank account together?
Yes.
Those are some of the things that you need to document that the relationship is solid. The wedding doesn't have to be a fancy wedding, but it should be documented. If there are just 4 of you at the wedding, you ought to make sure that somebody takes a picture of everybody that's there. Remember what you did on your wedding day, because some people are in a daze, they don't remember. Remember what you did so that you are able to tell the officer when you go in for the interview.
Great. I think a question we'd love to know is, can you be refused? Can a fiancé be refused?
Absolutely, it happens all the time. Unfortunately, there's a high incidence of fraud when it comes to marriage petitions, because for some people that's the only way that they can migrate. And so because it is known that there's a high incidence for fraud, it is strictly scrutinized. So if the consular officer does not believe in the validity of your marriage, even if USCIS in America has previously approved the first leg of the petition, when it gets to the embassy in Jamaica, it's up to the consular officer to grant or deny the visa.
Oh, wow.
If they are going to deny it, they will usually return the package to USCIS and give you an opportunity in a notice of intent to deny some of the discrepancies or the issues they have with your case. Okay. Sometimes before it even gets to that stage, they ask for the petitioner to come in for an interview. So if there's a doubt, they will ask for the spouse overseas to fly in and to be interviewed. And if there's still any discrepancy, then they'll issue this notice of intent to deny and give you an opportunity to rebut some of the allegations that they're asking.
Okay.
As I tell my clients, whether they're in the US or in Jamaica, act as if somebody's looking over your shoulder.
Yes.
Because you are under suspicion. The US Embassy goes so far at times as to go into neighborhoods to ask neighbors about somebody who's been filed for, because there have been instances where a beneficiary, the person in Jamaica, has been filed for, but they're still having an ongoing relationship with somebody else. So that sometimes creates a problem.
Can children from previous relationships be filed for during this process, or does it happen after the process?
No, certainly. If you marry an American citizen before your child is 18, then the American citizen has a step-parent relationship for immigration purposes with that child.
Okay.
So the step-parent can file for the child, and if the child turns out to be older and wants to file for another parent, they can do so as well.
So Dahlia, can you help to clarify a couple myths that I know, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there know as well? If my spouse is filing for me, can I go and get a visitor's visa? I've heard that you can't.
Well, the reason why many people don't get a visa is that once you are being filed for, the presumption is that you intend to migrate. And if you're applying for a non-immigrant visa, a visitor's visa, then you have to convince the consular officer that you do not intend to migrate. So by virtue of having a petition pending, it is very difficult for you to get a new visa. But if you already have a visa, it's a lot easier for you to renew it.
Okay.
However, if you have a spouse in the US and you have a visitor's visa and you go to the US on a visit, you don't have to come back to Jamaica. So that is usually one of the primary reasons why they won't give the spouse of an American citizen a visa, because you can stay in the US, they'll file to change your status, and you don't have to leave the country. And they really frown on that, although it is a system by which you can obtain a green card. They frown on it, so they tend to hold back.
If you would like more information on the services that Dahlia offers as an immigration lawyer, feel free to visit our Facebook page. I leave you with my thoughts on the show. As a couple, you constantly have to inject positive energy into your long-distance relationship in order to keep it alive. The waiting can be painful and you can sometimes feel alone, but whenever you do, just remind yourself that someone loves you. Until next week, keep on dreaming, wedding dreamers.
With you is where I'd rather be, but we're stuck where we are, and it's so hard, it's so far. This long distance is killing me. I wish that you were here with me, but we're stuck where we are, and it's so hard, it's so far. This long distance is killing me. So what, so what?
Wedding Dreams is brought to you by Jamaican National.
Why don't you start your conversation today?
In association with Petals and Promises, when the moment matters. American Jewelers. Quality is our name, service is our game. And ATL Jamaica, unbeatable.